When I quit my high-paying corporate job at the age of 60, everyone called me crazy. They said I was abandoning the dream I had spent 40 years building: the corner office, the expensive car, the prestige. But that night, as I sat alone on my porch in the quiet town of Ashland, Wisconsin, sipping a cup of chamomile tea, I realized something no paycheck could ever buy: peace. My name is Richard Lawson, and this is the story of how I let go of the American dream I thought I wanted, only to discover a life richer than I could have ever imagined. Richard Lawson had never imagined retirement would feel like stepping into a mystery rather than a relief. For 40 years, his life had followed a rigid rhythm: the early alarms, the endless meetings, the constant pressure to perform. And now, suddenly, all of it had vanished. But was he supposed to do with himself? Would the long, quiet mornings feel liberating or terrifyingly empty? As he wandered through the sun-drenched streets of Ashland, Wisconsin, he noticed things he had never seen before: the laughter of children chasing ice cream trucks, neighbors tending to their gardens with a sense of calm he had forgotten existed, the gentle ripple of Lake Superior catching the morning light. Each sight stirred a question in his mind. Could life really be this peaceful without constant achievement? Was it possible to find fulfillment outside of deadlines, promotions, and accolades? Richard found himself drawn to the old library on Main Street, a place he had rushed past for decades without a second thought. Inside, the musty scent of books and quiet whispers of knowledge seemed to beckon him toward a new kind of adventure. Could retirement be the start of discovering passions he had never pursued, ideas he had never dared to explore? And if so, would he have the courage to let go of the familiar, to embrace the uncertainty that lay ahead? The questions kept coming, each one sharper and more insistent than the last, pulling him deeper into a journey that promised not money or prestige, but something far rarer: the chance to truly understand what it meant to live on his own terms, to wake each day guided not by obligation, but by curiosity and purpose. The following morning, Richard woke to the sound of birds he couldn't name, their songs filling the gaps where alarm clocks used to scream. He walked down to the lakeshore, the water glinting under the soft, early light, and felt an unfamiliar sense of possibility creeping in. What if retirement wasn't about slowing down at all, but about starting something entirely new? Could he finally tackle the dreams he had shelved for decades, the hobbies he had laughed off as unproductive in the rush to climb corporate ladders? As he watched a small sailboat drift lazily across the horizon, he wondered whether he had been living for everyone else's expectations rather than his own joy. The idea both thrilled and unnerved him. Could a man in his 60s truly reinvent himself? Or would he be trapped by habit, too set in routines built over 40 years? Passing a quaint cafe tucked between two brick buildings, he noticed a notice pinned to the window: "Volunteer for local history project. Help preserve Ashland stories." Could volunteering, of all things, offer him a sense of purpose he had spent a lifetime searching for in boardrooms and balance sheets? He paused, letting the thought sink in. Was it possible that fulfillment wasn't found in the accumulation of wealth or accolades, but in small, meaningful contributions to a community, in leaving a quiet mark rather than a loud legacy? He felt a flicker of excitement, the kind he hadn't felt since his 20s, when the world seemed full of endless opportunity. Could this be the moment that redefined everything he thought retirement was supposed to be, transforming what he feared would be idle years into the most vibrant chapter of his life? That afternoon, Richard found himself wandering through the small local market, something he had never done during his busy career. The vibrant colors of fresh produce, the smell of roasted coffee beans, and the chatter of vendors were strangely mesmerizing. He paused at a stall where an elderly man was meticulously arranging hand-carved wooden toys, each piece unique and full of character. How had he never noticed the artistry and passion in these simple things before? Could retirement actually open his eyes to the beauty of ordinary life that he had been blind to for decades? Richard couldn't shake the questions buzzing in his mind. If he had devoted so much of his time to work, what passions had he ignored? What skills had he left dormant? Could it be possible to learn something entirely new at this stage of life? Or was the window for reinvention closing faster than he realized? He felt a mix of hesitation and thrill, the kind that made his heart race with anticipation. Then a curious thought struck him. Could he, with his years of experience and knowledge, actually contribute to the lives of younger people in a meaningful way, mentor them, guide them, or simply share stories they might never hear otherwise. Richard realized he had spent so long climbing ladders and meeting deadlines that he had forgotten how to just explore life at his own pace. Could it be that retirement wasn't the end of ambition, but the beginning of a more personal, authentic quest for fulfillment? As he left the market, carrying a small bag of fresh apples, he felt a stirring of hope. What if the next chapter of his life could be the most enriching one ever, full of discovery, curiosity, and the chance to finally live on his own terms without anyone else's expectations weighing him down? That evening, as Richard sat on his porch watching the sun dip behind the gentle hills of Ashland, he felt an unexpected restlessness. For decades, he had measured life in promotions, bonuses, and titles. But now those markers were gone, leaving an open question he hadn't prepared for. What truly mattered when the applause of others disappeared? Could he, at this stage of life, cultivate a sense of purpose that was entirely his own, without leaning on societal expectations? The soft glow of the sunset reflected off the lake, and he wondered if the calm he had sought all these years was something that had been inside him, waiting for a chance to emerge. Could he allow himself to slow down without feeling guilty, or would he always feel the tug of the world's unfinished tasks? He thought of the small writing desk in his study, long neglected beneath stacks of paperwork, and asked himself, what if he used these quiet years to capture his memories, his lessons, and his stories for someone else to learn from? Could a man who spent his life solving other people's problems now focus on solving his own, and in doing so, inspire someone he would never meet? The questions swirled in his mind, each one more pressing than the last, drawing him into a reflection he hadn't anticipated. Could retirement, often viewed as an ending, actually be a beginning of exploration, creativity, and meaningful connection in ways he had never imagined? And if he embraced this uncertainty fully, what surprises might life have in store for him? Experiences richer than any office meeting, relationships deeper than any professional network, and the quiet satisfaction of finally living without the constant weight of expectation pressing down. Richard leaned back in his chair, letting the evening breeze touch his face, realizing that curiosity, not comfort, might be the key to unlocking this new chapter. The next morning, Richard decided to take a longer walk along the quiet streets of Ashland, letting his thoughts wander as freely as his feet. Each house seemed to hold a story, every garden a testament to patience and care, and he found himself wondering, how had he spent so many years racing past these small details in the pursuit of something he now questioned? Could it be that the satisfaction he had been chasing in boardrooms and business reports was merely a distraction from noticing life itself? As he passed a small pottery studio, he peered through the window to see a woman shaping clay with deliberate, focused hands. What was it about creating something tangible that brought such quiet joy, he wondered? And could he, at his age, find a craft or a passion that would ignite the same sense of fulfillment? Could retirement be the perfect time to explore talents buried beneath years of routine and responsibility? Or was it too late to begin something new? Richard's curiosity deepened as he thought about all the things he had deferred: painting, writing, traveling to places he had only read about. Could these years, once feared for their silence and emptiness, actually become the most adventurous of his life, filled with discovery rather than duty? And as he watched a group of elderly neighbors laughing over a shared story, he asked himself another pressing question. Could the connections he had neglected in the pursuit of success now become a source of richness, companionship, and laughter that no promotion had ever offered? Each step seemed to awaken a new possibility, each question urging him forward. Richard realized that the unknown ahead wasn't something to fear, but to explore, and perhaps the truest adventure of retirement wasn't in what he had accomplished, but in what he was yet to discover about himself. That afternoon, Richard wandered into a small community center he had noticed but never entered before, its doors open and inviting, echoing with the faint sounds of laughter and conversation. Inside, a group of retirees were learning to play musical instruments, some plucking guitar strings, others tapping on drums with tentative enthusiasm. Richard paused, watching them, and a question tugged at his mind. Could he, after decades of structured work and rigid schedules, allow himself to make mistakes, to experiment,
to simply enjoy learning something for the sake of joy rather than achievement? What had he lost by spending so many years chasing efficiency and perfection, and what may he gain if he embraced curiosity and imperfection in this new chapter? He felt a surge of intrigue. Could the simple act of trying, of stepping into unfamiliar territory without the pressure of success, bring him a sense of fulfillment deeper than any bonus or accolade had ever given him? And as he observed a woman laughing at a missed note on the piano, he wondered, was the true value of retirement not in how much one could accomplish, but in how fully one could experience moments of play, connection, and discovery? Could this be the key he had been searching for, a way to engage with life that was unhurried, creative, and entirely his own? Richard's curiosity refused to be satisfied with idle observation. He wanted to know how far he could push himself into this uncharted territory of personal growth, whether through art, music, volunteer work, or simple conversations with new friends. Could he find a rhythm in this freedom, a sense of purpose without obligation, and a joy that had eluded him in decades of structured success? As he signed up for his first beginner guitar lesson, he realized that the adventure of retirement was not about what he had left behind, but about what he was brave enough to explore next. A few days later, Richard found himself walking along the wooded trail by the outskirts of Ashland, where the crisp autumn air carried the scent of pine and fallen leaves. He paused frequently, marveling at the intricate patterns of sunlight filtering through the trees, and a question emerged unbidden. Had he ever truly noticed the world in this way before, or had he been too consumed by deadlines to see the quiet wonders surrounding him? Could retirement, often feared as a void, instead become a lens through which life's small, overlooked details gained meaning? As he stumbled upon a hidden bench by a babbling creek, he noticed an elderly man sketching the scenery with meticulous care. What had inspired him to dedicate hours to something seemingly so simple, and could Richard find a pursuit that would similarly absorb and delight him without concern for recognition or reward? The more he thought about it, the more possibilities opened in his mind. Photography, journaling, volunteering to guide local nature walks, even learning to fish properly instead of just thinking about it. Could the freedom of retirement allow him to embrace the curiosity and experimentation he had abandoned in his relentless pursuit of career success? And if he allowed himself to explore, would he discover talents, passions, or insights that had lain dormant for decades? Richard felt a thrill at the thought that the answers might not arrive immediately, that the joy of retirement might lie precisely in the process of asking these questions, of daring to experiment and stumble, of finding meaning in discovery rather than accomplishment. As he sat on the bench, letting the sound of the creek soothe him, another question surfaced. What if these quiet, unhurried moments held the real treasures of life, waiting for him to notice for the very first time?
One crisp morning, Richard wandered into the local farmer's market, a vibrant hub of colors, scents, and conversations he had always overlooked in his past life. He paused at a stand where a woman was carefully arranging jars of homemade jam, and he wondered, could such simple craftsmanship carry a deeper sense of purpose than a corner office ever had? As he observed the interactions between vendors and patrons, the smiles, the laughter, the shared stories, he asked himself another question. Had he spent too much of his life chasing recognition while missing the joy of small, meaningful connections? The thought sparked a curious itch in him. Could retirement actually be an opportunity to reconnect with people, to learn from their experiences, and to build a network of genuine relationships rather than professional contacts? He noticed a group gathered around a storyteller recounting tales of Ashland's history, and a new question surfaced. Could sharing knowledge, listening deeply, or even mentoring younger generations provide a fulfillment that no career milestone had ever given him? The more he lingered, the more he realized that retirement was not a pause, but a doorway to exploration, creativity, and human connection he had never had time for. Could he finally dedicate himself to projects driven solely by curiosity and passion rather than profit and prestige? And if he allowed himself to embrace uncertainty, what unexpected joys might emerge, what hidden talents might surface, and what parts of himself had been buried under decades of obligation? Richard felt a spark of anticipation, the same thrill he had felt in his youth, yet tempered by wisdom. Could it be that these unstructured, open-ended days, once feared as emptiness, were in fact the canvas upon which the richest chapter of his life would be painted? Later that week, Richard found himself at the Ashland Community Library, a quiet sanctuary he had often passed but never entered. Rows of books seemed to whisper possibilities he had long ignored, and as he ran his fingers along the spines, a question rose unbidden. Could knowledge, stories, and ideas he had neglected for decades now become a source of purpose and inspiration in his retirement? He wandered to a small reading nook where an older woman was teaching a group of teenagers how to research local history, and another thought struck him. Could he, with all he had learned in 40 years of life and work, offer insights or mentorship that mattered in ways corporate success never had? Richard's curiosity deepened. What would it feel like to dedicate his days to learning and teaching, to exploring subjects he had postponed for years, to embracing hobbies purely for the joy they sparked rather than their utility? Could these quiet hours, once dismissed as wasted time, actually be the gateway to a richer understanding of life, of people, and of himself? As he watched the student's eyes light up with each new discovery, another pressing question emerged. Had he underestimated the power of small contributions, the subtle impact of showing up and sharing wisdom without expectation of reward? Richard realized that retirement might not be a retreat from life, but a chance to engage with it in ways he had never imagined. Could he finally cultivate curiosity, creativity, and connection simultaneously? To live days guided not by obligation, but by wonder. The library's stillness felt like an invitation, a reminder that the adventure of retirement was not measured in schedules or accolades, but in the questions he dared to ask and the discoveries he was brave enough to pursue. As the golden afternoon sun filtered through his porch window, Richard found himself reflecting on the subtle shifts that had taken place in the first months of retirement. Sitting alone with a steaming cup of tea, he realized how intimately he was noticing his own thoughts, his own feelings, in ways he never had when life had been dictated by schedules and meetings. Could it be that the most profound discoveries of retirement weren't out there in adventures or activities, but inside, in understanding his own desires, fears, and longings that had been buried beneath decades of responsibility? He traced the faint lines on his hands and asked himself, what stories do these hands hold? What quiet achievements and missed opportunities? And could he finally make peace with both? The soft tick of the clock seemed louder than usual, each second an invitation to pause, to examine, to feel. Could he allow himself to linger in these moments of quiet without the nagging sense that he should be doing something productive? And if he embraced the stillness, what might he uncover about himself that had been drowned out by the noise of ambition for so long? As he gazed out at the lake, the ripples reflecting the fading sun, he realized that retirement wasn't just about freedom from work, it was about freedom to witness his own life closely, to ask the hard questions, to notice patterns, and to finally honor the small, meaningful choices that gave each day depth. Could the richness of this chapter lie not in external accomplishments, but in these intimate, reflective moments where he truly understood who he was, who he had been, and who he could still become? Richard leaned back, letting the quiet envelop him, sensing that the journey inward might be the most rewarding adventure yet. The weeks that followed felt like a gentle unfolding, each day revealing layers of life Richard had long ignored. As he sat on the porch one crisp morning, watching the mist rise from the lake, a profound question settled in his mind. Had he spent so long chasing achievements that he forgot the quiet magic of simply being present? He thought of the laughter of neighbors, the warmth of small connections, the thrill of learning something new, and realized that fulfillment was never about grand gestures or recognition. It was in these subtle, unhurried moments that life's true richness revealed itself. Could he, at this stage, allow himself to fully embrace the rhythm of days guided by curiosity, reflection, and gentle exploration rather than obligation?
Richard smiled, sensing a calm he hadn't known in decades, and wondered, could retirement, often feared as a slow fade, actually be the beginning of life's most vibrant chapter? He thought of the projects he had started, the conversations he had nurtured, the quiet self-discovery that had become his daily companion, and felt an unexpected gratitude for the years he had once considered lost. Could it be that letting go of rigid expectations and external pressures was the key to truly living? As the sun climbed higher, casting a golden glow across the lake, Richard realized that retirement wasn't just about freedom from work, it was about freedom to witness his own life closely, to savor moments, to embrace curiosity, and to find joy in simplicity. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and breathed deeply. Finally at peace, knowing that the journey inward and the choices he made each day could create a legacy far richer than any career accolade. The adventure, he realized, was only just beginning, and it was entirely his to define.